Welcome to the Age UK Isle of Wight podcast, featuring Island Voices, brought to you today by Claire Shortman in association with Slingshot Records.
Hi, this is Age UK Isle of Wight. My name's Claire and today we're talking to Pat. So Pat, tell us about where you're from.
A place called Enniskillen, which is in County Fermanagh, southwest of Ulster, about 90 miles southwest of Belfast.
Yeah.
It lies between two lakes, the Loch Earn, the Upper Earn and the Lower Earn, and it's said to be the only town in Ireland that is actually built on an island.
Okay.
Because when the British took it over, about 1500, under Queen Elizabeth I, it was regarded as being rebel country.
Right.
They were surrounded on every side, and because we're surrounded by lakes, that was a good way of attacking as well.
Yeah.
So they built one bridge at one end of the town and another bridge at the other end with two gun positions not pointing down on them. We used to have a railway line, but that went under dear Dr. Beeching.
Okay.
But it was quite a busy line, I understand, during the Second World War, because we had the 8th American Division, which was a Texas National Guard unit. And National Guard, by the way, is the same as our Territorial Army, the part-timers.
Yeah.
We had an RAF squadron flying Sunderlands on one side of the lake on anti-submarine patrol out over the Atlantic. We had Canadians flying Catalinas. A Catalina is perhaps a little bit bigger than a Piper Cub or whatever.
Okay.
It's a very small aeroplane anyway. Whereas a Sunderland would have a crew of 12 or 14. A Catalina might have a crew, I don't know. I would guess 4 at a maximum.
Did you have a military background?
Me, I was in the army for a while.
Okay. So
I was in the regular army, territorial army, and the Royal Auxiliary Air Force.
Okay. So when did you join?
1956.
Okay.
I only stayed in for 3 years because it didn't suit me.
Right.
Perhaps I was averse to taking orders, I don't know. But anyway, like all soldiers do, or most soldiers do, I missed the comradeship.
Mm.
But I didn't rejoin. What I did was I joined a territorial army unit,
Yeah.
signals unit. I stayed with them round about 8 years. Then I transferred to the Royal Auxiliary Air Force, which again is a part-time organisation. But it was much bigger during the war because it had flying squadrons and all the rest of it. But all that went in 1947, and it was reduced to 3 units, one at Plymouth, one at Northwood where I was, and one up in Scotland. The idea being they had a core to build on if they were required. Well, you know where the Treasury and whatever works, there were several times they came pretty close to extinction. But then all of it is a reason, for some reason, I don't know the background to it, Royal Auxiliary Air Force, our unit was only operations and intelligence and communications. But there were other auxiliary air force who had different jobs, and they became very much in demand as aircraft loaders and load masters and that type of thing. So I stuck with them for, it must have been about 15 years. I thought about it afterwards. I probably did something like 24 years total, whereas I could have signed up for 20 in the army and got a pension as well.
Okay.
And you don't get a pension for being in the volunteer services.
Right.
You get paid the standard rate for your rank and trade, but that's all you get. Don't get anything else.
So what brought you to England? Did you come through?
What brought me to the island?
Yeah.
Well, my sister, who lives across the road,
Okay.
her and her husband, they loved the island. They were living in Scotland at the time, but he had a son down here. And I think it was never discussed, but I assumed that what he wanted is when he came to both of them retiring, he'd come down and have a blood relative close to him. It didn't work out like that way, but that's what happened. So when I took retirement, I worked for an outfit called British European Airways.
Oh yeah.
BEA and BOAC were set up in 1947.
Yeah.
BOAC being the long distance one, and BEA being Britain and Europe. And I worked for them for 20 years, learning the skills, using the skills, typewriter, teleprinters, I should say, in the Royal Signals. In fact, when I went for the job, I worked in the London office for a little while, but we had a rather severe Greek Cypriot gentleman, and he had no tolerance at all. They shoved you in front of this thing, gave you a muddle thing, and then walked off, and you're expected to deal with it, because you'd never seen the damn thing in your life. So I said, I got on very well with the cleaner, and he said, I'm going to get the sack. He said, no, stop worrying, Pat. Anyway, personnel sent me. I'm fortunate. I got a nice personnel lady by the name of Miss English. And she said, now then, Mr. McCabe, first question, and the most important, is do you want to stay with the company? I'd only been with them a few months. I said, yes, but I would like to stay in communications. That was going a little bit too far as she was concerned. Anyway, because I want that. I knew nothing at all about the airline, but it occurred to me there must be more than one communications office. So they sent me to, it's gone now, it's closed, West London Air Terminal, Cromwell Road.
Right.
That's where all the coaches left for the airport. BA ones, the BOAC ones left from the other side of town. So they sent me there for a job as a porter, which I didn't get. I'm not surprised either. Anyway, I ended up in the long run by getting a job as an aircraft cleaner out on the tarmac at Heathrow. And I was in that 6 months or whatever. And I happened to be going on leave, and I happened to look at the notice board, and there's a job going in communications. I thought, lovely, I'll have some of that.
Yeah.
So I wrote a letter, I gave it to my foreman, and I said, put that in the mailbox, and if there's a reply to it, let me know, because it's important. Needless to say, he didn't. So I came back on night shift to find I'd been asked an interview on the previous day.
Oh no.
I was spitting mad. Anyway, I decided that it's not all over yet. So I rang first. I finished at 6. I waited till 9 till the offices opened, and I phoned personnel. And I explained the situation, and I said, is there any way I can get an interview? Certainly, Mr. McCabe. We haven't analysed most of the interviewees from the last one. He said, I said, how about today? He said, right, do you know where my office is? I said, no, you tell me and I'll be there. Anyway, he set up an interview with the head of the department was a lady, Violet Margaret Mary Daly.
Wow.
Scotch lady, actually. hard as brick, but marvellous inside. Her, the communications manager, his assistant, the personnel officer, and I can't remember who the other one was. And they all asked me questions. And then the boss says to me, can I ask you a question, Mr. McCabe? I said, certainly, that's what I'm here for. She said, I understand you're on the tarmac at the moment as a cleaner. Now, this is 1955-56. So I said, yes. She said, would you mind telling me what you get paid as an aircrafter? I said, certainly, £28 a week. Now, that was an enormous sum of money back in 1958. And her jaw went, and there was a pregnant minute's silence, and she said, well, Mr. McCabe, you do realise a teleprinter operator gets paid £12 a week. So there you had an unskilled bloke let me start working on the tarmac, and to go and do the job that I was trained for, I was going to get half the money.
That's interesting, isn't it? So,
I know. I didn't think to ask, but they were willing to help me. First thing I said to her, and this was in the office when the interview was going on, I said, if you've got a spare teleprinter in your office, I'd like to use it for a little while because I've not touched the keyboard for a while. She said, no problem. It took, I think when we started work, and most of the staff were ex-forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Women's Services. So they all had a work ethic that they were used to. And we got along fine, and then she pushed me to be a supervisor. There were 32 staff and 6 supervisors, and I said no. She said, would you like to tell me why, Pat? I said yes. For an extra, was it 2 shillings a week, 10p? No, 20p, I beg your pardon. No, it's not worth it. I said, there's enormous, apart from organising the work, which I'm used to as ex-NCO anyway, that's no problem. But it's the paperwork. It's too much hassle. So she said, well, leave it with me for a little while. I said, yes, certainly. She come back, and I can't remember, I think it was a couple of pounds she come up with. I said, yeah, okay,
I'll do it.
But if I don't like it, I'm packing it in.